We are live. I think this is coming through loud and clear. Fingers crossed it is. I'm going to wait for a minute to make sure that this is popping up on the internets over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, as well as the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page. So hopefully this is coming through loud and clear. And if you can hear me, if you can see me, please let me know and type into the chat window and just say loud and clear if this is coming through. So if you're over on YouTube, there should be the live stream chat window. If you're watching this through Facebook, there should be the comment section below the video or whatever it is. You should be able to comment one way or the other, whether you're watching through YouTube or through Facebook. And we have this dual stream coming through, so streaming through both platforms. So let me know if it is coming through. All right, we got Lee joining in. Awesome. Thanks, Lee. Much appreciated, saying I can hear you loud and clear. And I know Lee's a regular to our video chats over in the UK. Awesome. And as you're tuning into the video chat, let me know, where are you located? All right, let me know where in the world are you to, and just want to kind of get an idea. And the way these work is I'm going to be hanging out here, answering questions and topics of discussion that you have related to fitness and nutrition. So if you have any questions, anything that you want to talk about regarding fitness, fat loss, building muscle, your nutrition, your workouts, anything along those lines, feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our video chat window, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out over the course of our chat. So let's see. We've got Thy saying keep walking, or from Mexico. All right, will do. Walking is a great form of exercise, very underrated one, from Mexico. Nice to have you tuning in. We have Todd joining in from New Brunswick. That's close enough. I'm going to consider Todd local. Right? Just a hip hop, skip, and a jump away. A big hop, big skip, big jump, but the closest one so far. Who else we got? We got Alberto from Madrid. Wow. Okay. Yep, Todd, you're definitely the closest guy so far. I'm in Newfoundland, right? So in Canada, East Coast Canada. That's where I'm to. All right. So again, just want to let you know now, the past couple of weeks, I've had some great conversations here on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chats. Last week, I was joined by one of my long-term coaching students, Paul Miller. If you haven't had a chance to check that one out, I would highly recommend doing so. The video recording is posted up on YouTube in the live stream section there. Like all these video chats that we do, the replays are posted up afterwards over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. And that one that we had last week with Paul Miller, that was very insightful. And just to kind of give you a little heads up, Paul is someone who did not start exercising, never stepped foot inside a gym, no athletic background whatsoever, until age 62. At 62, he had his brush with death. He was rushed to the emergency room having a heart attack, and AKA cardiac event, however we want to look at it. But he almost died. The ER doctors revived him in the emergency room, and he had his brush with death. And the emergency room doctor grabbed him by the wrist, looked him in the eye, and said, "The universe has given you a gift. What are you going to do with it? Right? You've gotten a second chance at life. What are you going to do with it?" And he said those words burned to his core, and he started exercising and taking care of his health and fitness at 62 years old. That's when it all started. So a lot of you are listening and watching and stuff, and I get messages from people all the time saying, "I think I'm too old to start working out, right? I'm 25 years old. Am I too old? I'm in my 30s. Am I too old? I'm in my 40s. Am I too old? I'm in my 50s. Am I too old?" Paul started in his 60s. Right? I've known guys who've started even later than that, right? I mean, I've had coaching students literally come on board. The one guy, John, last year, I think he was, can't remember the exact number. Forgive me, John. But if I'm not mistaken, I think he's 72 or 70 or anyway. I know there was a 7 as the first number in his age. I know that. He was in his 70s, came on board with the Muscle After 40 coaching program, and started working out in his 70s. And has made an amazing progress at that stage. Now, granted, he's not going to go on and become, a jack-ripped bodybuilder at 70 years old, but he's made huge strides, and the quality of his life, his strength, his energy, all that has improved by leaps and bounds over the past year. And it's just amazing to see. So improvement is always possible, regardless of how old you are. I mean, you're never going to be as young as you are now. So for those of you who are kind of sitting on the fence thinking, I don't know, I think I missed the boat, I'm over the hill, start now. Seriously, start now. Figure it out. Like, you got the rest of your life ahead of you. Make the most of it. Don't put it off any longer. All right, so I'm going to jump in now and see if we have any questions coming through. And again, guys, the way this works is I'm going to be answering your questions. You get to run the show. This is your show. Anything that you want to discuss, feel free to post it there into the chat window. If I can help you out, I'll let you know. If I can't, I'll let you know, right? I don't claim to know it all. Even though I've been around the whole fitness and fitness industry and training and competing and coaching and all that for over 30 years, I don't claim to know it all, right? I'm not one of these guys who's so thick-headed to think that I got it all figured out. But I have learned a few things over that length of time, right? Over the past 30 years of doing something passionately, you kind of pick up a few things along the way. So if I can help and share, that's what this is all about. So I'll certainly do my best. So you're in control of the show. And actually, we do have Paul joining in with us today. Paul, I'm hyping you up there. So you're actually joining in. Hopefully you're feeling proud over there in Alberta. Nice to have you tuning in. All right, let's see. Oops, something happened there. I lost my stream. Back again. Hopefully I didn't lose anybody there. I don't know what the heck happened. My thing just went dead. All right. Fingers crossed we keep this going. All right, let's jump in. I think we got Gabriel's joining in. He got a question. Do you think it is mandatory to go to failure on every set when performing volume training? For example, if I'm doing 3 sets of lat pull downs, do I increase or decrease the weight after 3 to 4 exercises with back only? All right, so bottom line here, this is Gabriel's question. Is it mandatory to go to failure on every set? No. Is it mandatory? This is a good question, and I want to kind of break it down. And you're going to hear so much BS in the fitness industry. Like people saying, you got to go to failure and all this. You need to provide stimulus and a reason for the muscle to grow bigger and stronger. That's it. You need to train your body to gradually do more than it did before. That's the whole idea here. It's about progressive overload. Now, the idea of training to failure is that's the maximum amount of overload that you can provide at this moment. So if we go to the gym and we're working out together, the hardest that we can train that muscle or that exercise or whatever is to go to muscular failure, to the point where you basically give it your all. You do as much as you can safely and in a controlled fashion, but you basically give it your all. Do you have to do that with every set? Of course not. That's like saying, hey, when I go outside for a run, do I have to sprint as hard as I physically can every time? Or when I drive my car, do I have to put the pedal to the metal as soon as I turn on the ignition and go flat out as hard as I can every single time I get behind the wheel? No. You need to learn how to modulate this, right? You just don't go pedal to the metal every single time. And if you try to do that, you're going to crash and burn. Like a prime example, imagine getting in your car and turning on the ignition, putting the car in gear, and you've got 2 speeds, foot flat to the floor on the gas pedal or foot flat to the floor on the brake pedal. That's it. There's no in between. It's flat out on the gas, dead stop on the brake. Imagine trying to drive your car through traffic like that. So you probably wouldn't even be able to get out of your driveway because you probably, assuming you're going out of the driveway and you got to make a turn onto the road, you probably wouldn't even make the turn onto the road before you go off the edge of the other side of the road and crash into somebody else's house. Like, you can't drive your car either flat out, right? You have to modulate the speed. Same thing with your effort in the gym. You just don't go in there and kill yourself with every single set. You have to modulate it. So first set should be an easy warm-up set. take a very light weight, just go through the motions, get used to the exercise, get used to the movement pattern, get comfortable with what it is you're doing, especially if you're new to training. And if you're asking questions like this, I'm assuming you're probably fairly new to training, right? I mean, maybe you've been dabbling at it on and off for a few months, few years, I don't know, but this is, if we were in the realm of fitness, this is a novice level question, right? Again, I'm not saying this is a derogatory or being negative to Gabriel. I'm just saying that this question here is kind of on the novice level, and that's why I really want to address it, because it applies to everybody. But when you go into the gym, the first exercise, the first set, go light, go through the motions, just literally learn to do the exercise. Make sure that everything feels good, warm up. Make sure that your form and mechanics is proper. And if you need some help, get a coach to help guide you through it, or an experienced lifter who can show you how to do those exercises. Then once you've done that first really light set, how about we increase the weight a little bit and then do another one, a progressively heavier warm-up set. And you're going to need to do as many progressively heavier warm-up sets as you need based on your individual strength level. Now, if you're a novice, you're probably only going to need to do a couple sets before you eventually get to the point where you can't lift anymore, meaning you're hitting muscular failure once the weight gets so heavy. As you're more experienced, you're going to need more progressively heavier warm-up sets. So I'll give you an analogy. If you take a novice lifter who can bench press 100 pounds, they're going to need fewer sets to get up to that 100 pounds than if you take an elite level power lifter who can bench press 500 pounds. In order for an elite level powerlifter to muster up the strength, to get up not only the strength, but to warm up the body, warm up the joints, tendons, and ligaments, and to mentally prepare to lift that weight, it's going to take a lot more warm-up sets, a lot more work to get up to 500 pounds than it is for a novice to hit 100 pounds, right? For a novice, they might warm up with the empty barbell, which is 45 pounds. They might put, another 20 or 20 pounds on, another 10 on each side, do that. And they could probably be ready to go for their top 100-pound set. It could be very quick, the progression. But for an elite level power lifter, it's going to take a lot more to build up to that, because it's more stress on the body. There's more mental demands, because it's not just the physical demands at that stage. It's the mental demands, the technical demands. It's a lot more work to build up to it. And I know this is kind of a branching off that. I remember reading about Usain Bolt's training for sprints. Usain Bolt, right? The world's fastest man, right? Olympic sprinter. He just doesn't hop out of bed and run a world record pace. You can't do that. It takes him about 2 hours of prep to get his body in the state that it needs to be in to perform at that world-class, world record-breaking level. It's not just like me jumping up out of this chair and start running as fast as I can and hope I'm going to break a world record. Like, it doesn't happen that way. He has to go through a whole ritual, a warm-up routines, progressively harder sprint exercises, different mobility exercises, and mental exercises to get himself in the right state of mind to kind of fire his body on all cylinders so that he can perform at that world-class level. It takes about 2 hours. It's not just something you just jump up and do. So the same applies to us, mere mortals, on a lower level when we're in the gym. You just don't grab the barbell and train to failure every single set. You have to build yourself up to it. So those progressively heavier warm-up sets are critical, right? If you don't do them and you try to just jump to failure, you're going to end up tearing or snapping or hurting yourself. It's an injury waiting to happen. So warm-ups are so critical here. Now, once you do warm-up to a heavy set and maybe you train to failure, that might be enough. If you're new to training, like one heavy set could be enough. As you build up your strength and your work capacity and your fitness level, then you may want to add to it. So you might do your heavy set, push yourself to momentary muscular failure, and you might still have some more energy left in the tank. And maybe you want to do another set, right? And that's fine. This is all forms of progressive overload. Like, you can lift heavier, you can do more reps, you can do more sets. This is all forms of getting your body to do more than it did before. But every set should not be done to failure. That's the purpose of this question here. And that's what you're asking here is it mandatory to go to failure on every set? Hell no, you don't go to failure on every set, right? That's something that you work up to. You do your heavy set, and then that's it. Once you've stimulated the muscle, then let it rest, recover, and grow. Like, doing more beyond that is like beating a dead horse. Like if we were going, if I was going hunting, right, and I want to kill an animal, get the job done, I just need like, you know, maybe a rifle, maybe a bow, an arrow, or something like that. I just need to do enough to get the job done. I could go in there with a, you know, RPG rocket launcher and blow the thing to smithereens. That would get the job done as well, but it's overkill, right? And that's what a lot of people try and do when they go to the gym, is overkill. You don't need to overkill. You just need to do enough to get the job done and then get the heck out of there and let yourself rest, recover, and grow. All right. Instead of beating a dead horse anymore, I'm going to move on from Gabriel's question. So hopefully this helps to answer. Do not train to failure every set. Start off light, increase the weight with each set till you get to your top heavy working set. Once you've stimulated the muscle and you say, you know what, that was more than I did before. This is good. Then you can move on. Move on to your next exercise. Right? Stimulate, don't annihilate. That's another famous line from former Mr. Olympia Lee Haney. All right, stimulate, don't annihilate. Where am I to? I lost my place on the questions. Who else we got there? Todd's saying we're practically neighbors. Yes, Todd, we are, right? Only 1,000 kilometers thereabouts, give or take. Actually, more than that, but... Gabriel's question. Paul's joining. Who else we got there? J.E. is joining in. Lee, I'm starting a full body, heavy, light, medium program. Do you have any tips and opinions on that routine? Well, I don't have a lot of feedback or information on that routine other than it's full body, heavy, light, and medium. I will just share some feedback on my opinion of full body workouts. I personally do full body workouts. I enjoy full body workouts for a couple of reasons. One, it is very efficient because when you go into the gym, you're going to do a little bit for all your major muscle groups. So you're not really neglecting anything. And it's ideal for beginners. It's ideal for people who are pressed for time. And even someone who would consider themselves somewhat advanced, you can still make some great progress with full body workouts, because the idea here is instead of going in there and having chest day, back day, leg day, arm day, shoulder day, whatever, body part splits, you go in there and you do maybe one exercise for each major muscle group. So you a little bit of stimulation all around, then let yourself rest, recover, and grow. This is how I've been training for the past 4 years. I mean, I'll vary it. It's not like I do the exact same thing every single workout. Like, I will change up the exercises, but I usually pick one major exercise per muscle group each workout and go through a total body routine. And the thing that I like about this is, one, it doesn't lead to aches and pains and soreness the next day. Because if I go in there and I train chest and I do, say, 20 sets of chest, the next day my chest is so painfully sore it hurts. Or if I went in and trained legs and did 20 sets of legs, the next day it's going to hurt to walk up a flight of stairs. But if I just do a little bit for all the muscle groups, then I get that little bit of stimulation, but it's not such a big degree of muscle breakdown that it hinders my recovery. It allows me to recover very quickly and feel good the next day. And that's what I want at this stage of the game. Like, I'm not looking for pain. I know it sounds cool and macho to say no pain, no gain and all that, but I don't want to feel pain. I want to feel mobile and fit and limber and active and actually enjoy myself. That's my goal at this stage of the game. So I like to do a little bit, let myself rest, recover, and grow, and then go in a couple days later and do a little bit, let myself rest, recover, and grow, and keep that momentum going forward like that. And I actually enjoy this because it doesn't lead to that aches and pains and injuries that I've often had when I did body part split routines. Another thing I like about the full body programs is if you're pressed for time and you may not be as consistent with the gym, it's great, because let's just say I miss a day. Big deal. I mean, I'm still going to hit all my major muscle groups the next time I go to the gym. So even if I just went to the gym 1 day per week with a total body workout, well, at least I did a little bit for everything. I didn't neglect anything. Whereas if I'm doing a body part split and I'm working each muscle group once a week, if I miss a couple workouts, then there could be this big, large gap between muscle groups. And I mean, maybe a couple weeks or more go by before I hit that same muscle group again. Whereas with total body workouts or workouts where you're hitting the muscle groups more frequently, you don't have those large gaps. And this is great for people who have very busy schedules or are not as consistent with the gym. And that's where I am at this stage of the game. Like, I usually, for me, A good week at the gym is 3 weight training workouts a week. Seriously, 3 weight training workouts a week is a good week for me. Some days it's less than that. Some weeks it's less than that. Sometimes it's only 2 weight training workouts a week. And that's fine when I'm doing a total body, because at least I'm still stimulating all my major muscle groups a couple times a week. So I'm still making progress, still not neglecting anything. Now, when I was younger, especially in like the bodybuilding heydays, and I single, no kids, a lot more time, and I could really focus on me and be selfish with my schedule, it was a lot easier to go to the gym, and I could go and spend 2 hours a day at the gym, no problem. So in those situations where I got tons of time to work out, I would often do the body part split routines because I knew I was going to be there every day. And instead of doing total body, well, that allowed me to work on different areas of my body. So one day I would train chest, next day I would train legs, next day I'd train back, next day I'd train arms and shoulders and whatever. And I have this split routine. That's ideal for people who want to work out, have the time to work out, are in good shape that they can recover from those workouts. So it's not right, wrong, good or bad. It depends on the situation and what it is that you're training for. So your circumstances, your situation, your schedule, and what it is you're training for. Right now, a body part split doesn't fit for me, and a total body workout does. And for someone else, it could be the complete opposite. It really depends on you. And this is where having a coach or a mentor or someone who can guide you, who's been there and done that and knows the pros and cons and can guide you along the path, this is where this helps, versus you just jumping into the world of social media, fitness, and Google, and then trying to figure it out for yourself. Because I mean, I feel sorry for people these days who are trying to figure fitness out for themselves for the first time. Because if I went to Google and typed in how to work out, I'm going to get like 10 billion search results. And they're going to be everything from body weight programs to body part split routines to powerlifting to CrossFit training to athletic performance programs. And I was like, what the hell do I do? Or if I type in like how to lose fat, I'm going to get a gazillion diets, right? I'm going to get everything from paleo and Weight Watchers and Nutrisystem and vegan and carnivore and high carb and low carb and high fat and low fat. And the biggest one is the vegans and the carnivores, right? Like one is telling you don't eat meat, just eat plants. The other one's telling you don't eat plants, just eat meat. And both are convinced that if you do the other, you're going to die. Right? So like how confusing and contradicting can it be? We have all this crap and mishmash, and it's not that it's right, wrong, good or bad. Like there's a time and a place for all these things. But again, you need to be able to sort through it and know. All right? And that's where having a coach or a mentor or someone who can guide you through it instead of you just diving in head first and trying to sink or swim on your own can really help. What the hell was the question? I lost myself. I lost my place. Oh my. I'm drinking a kombucha today. I have a ginger lemonade. And Paul told me that this is actually tea. I always thought it was just a health drink, but Paul told me that this was kombucha. I suppose I'm pronouncing that right. Is actually tea. So this is technically a tea with Lee. A tea with Lee video chat. All right. I don't know. I got rambling on there. I got lost in my ramble, so bear with me. Oh yeah, we were talking about workout programs, full bodies. What was my opinions on that? Oh, there, I shared my opinions on that. Neil's joining in. Good morning, Neil. Well, Neil's over in the other corner of the globe. This is good night for me. Good morning for you, but again, good day. Says, I've been focusing on building muscle and strength for more than a decade, but I haven't emphasized joint health, flexibility, and mobility. Shame on you. Your thoughts on improving these 3. You're not alone, Neil. The reality of this is most guys, especially guys, but it also applies to women, but I'm going to pick on guys here because the majority of people watching this are guys. Most guys don't focus on their joint health, their flexibility, or their mobility until they get injured or they're having some problems with their joints, flexibility, and mobility. When something starts to go wrong and they're suffering the side effects and the consequences, that's when they think about it. But if there's no pain, it's out of sight, out of mind, then they don't even focus on it. And we're all a little bit guilty of this. I'm guilty of this. right? I am totally guilty of this. I remember like back in the day with my training, I used to use crappy form, lift way too heavy, not respect my body, and just thought that I was invincible. And it was just thanks to youth and luck that I managed to get through many, many years of training without any serious injury until I had my first serious injury. And for me, it was at 28 years old. It was 2008, I think it was. Yes, it was 2008. I believe I was 28 years old. I have to do the math on this. Right, the older you get, the harder it is to remember numbers. I can only imagine how bad it's going to be when I get in my when I get even older again. But it was in 2008. I remember I had my first serious injury, and that was a torn muscle right through my armpit, down through my right in some of the tie-in muscles from the triceps right on down through the lat. And that was a serious injury. And up until that point, I never tore a muscle before. I mean, I had a few aches and pains and a few pulls and strains, but nothing that, a week or two didn't heal, right? It was just a few little, bumps and bruises along the way, if you will. But that was my first, injury where that like set me back. And like, I haven't been the same since. That was back in 2008, right? We're talking well over a decade now. And that still haunts me today. I can't lift as heavy and push myself because of that injury. Like, that's limited how much weight I can deadlift. That's limited how much weight I can do for pull-ups and pull-downs and all that kind of stuff. Anything that I stretch that area or put strain on that area, like heavy rows and anything where I'm pulling hard, once the weight gets so heavy, like I can feel that injury, where those muscles and tendons were torn, acts up. Now, it's healed up to the point where I can functionally train, but it's an injury that's going to haunt me for the rest of my life. It'll never be as strong as it was pre-injury. And that was a lesson that I had to learn the hard way. I had to learn how to respect my body the hard way. And a lot of guys are in that same situation. So chances are, Neil, you've been, go back to your question there. You say you've been training for more than a decade. Chances are, if we were sitting down and having a cup of tea together, you could tell me some of the aches and pains and injuries that you're probably going through right now. What I would recommend at this stage of the game is, one, you got to emphasize the warm-up with your workouts. This takes on a whole new priority, kind of like similar to what I was chatting about earlier with Gabriel's question about, doing progressively heavier warm-ups. That takes priority. You've got to focus on that. Another thing that you should really focus on as well is mobility work. And when I say mobility work, it's exercises that increase your functional range of motion. It's not necessarily stretching, but it's exercises where you're working the muscles and the joints and your limbs and your extremities through their full range of motion. So things like arm circles and rotator cuff rotations and deep knee bends and all this kind of stuff, even like just simple stuff like working your neck from side to side, up and down, ear to shoulder, like getting all those kinks and cracks and just working all the major muscles of the body, trunk twists and rotations, like just working your body through its full functional range of motion. And I actually have a video up on YouTube. It's a 10-minute mobility routine, if you will, where I take you through right from the neck, right on down, from head to toe, some exercises. It takes about 10 minutes working all the different joints and movement patterns. And it just is good for overall limbering. And this is something that you can do either as a pre-workout warm-up. You could do it after a workout, or you could even do it on your off days as well. But emphasizing this will really help, right? Using those movement patterns and just getting the mobility in all your major muscles and joints and tendons and ligaments. And this is something that people, when you don't use it, you lose it, right? So people, as they get older and they don't emphasize working all their joints and movement patterns, then they get seized up and stiff. And, that's the big reason right there. So you want to focus on working all those movement patterns. Another one is stretching. And with stretching, I always save it for at the end of a workout. So in my case, I do stretching post-workout. So after I've worked a muscle group, then I will stretch the muscles that I trained. And in my case, where I kind of do total body workouts, I have a total body stretching routine. So I'll do exercises where I stretch out my chest, stretch out my back, stretch out my arms, stretch out my legs, stretch out my core, you know, all the different areas. And I have this post-workout stretching routine. And even up on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, there's a playlist covering stretches for all your major muscle groups as well. So let me just see if I can dig those up real quick and post them in links in our chat window. And then that will also, for my assistant, who's going to be posting up the replay and then the timestamps and notes afterwards, he'll be able to put these in the show notes afterwards. So if I go to the playlist tab, let me just a second here. I'm on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding page. Clicking on the link, waiting for the internet to respond. Right. I suppose where I'm live streaming this, my internet's a bit slower. That's probably why. Where is it? I have a stretching routine playlist in amongst the gazillion playlists that I have up here. There's over 1,000 videos on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. So there's a lot of stuff, right? Going back to 2006 is when I kicked this thing off, back when YouTube was just getting started, right? Back when YouTube was far from what the YouTube it is today. Where the heck is that? Second, guys. I'm looking. I can't even find my own videos here. I got so many of them. There it is. Okay. Full playlist. Let me just pop that open. And do I have the mobility workout in there as well? I'm not sure if I do. If not, I should have that. I'm going to share my screen if I can. That's a cool feature that I have right here. Share screen, second now. Chrome tab, YouTube, stretching routine. Let me know if you can see that. Hopefully you can. Yeah, all right. Let's change that around there. Okay. So this is over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. It's a stretching routine. So if you just did a search for Lee Hayward bodybuilding stretching routine, it will probably pop up there. But I'm going to grab the link to that and post it into our chat window here. So those of you who are watching, that should pop up. It may only pop up on YouTube. I'm not sure. Right? If you're watching this through Facebook, that link that I posted may not pop up. I'm not 100% sure on this because the platform I'm using right now. But if you go to YouTube and the Total Fitness Bodybuilding channel and type in Lee Hayward bodybuilding stretching routine, or just search for the playlist, you should find that one. So that's where it's to. And there was another one that I mentioned as well, was the, see if I can find that for you. It's an older one. I made it a while back. As a mobility exercise. Going through all these. Let me see. Yeah, they're coming up there. Just want to make sure my screen was still sharing. See, like I told you, there's a lot of videos up here. It's worthwhile to go back and watch some of these. I know some people have, aka Paul Miller's one, who's certainly done that, and the amount of knowledge he's learned so much. Like, there's stuff that I've forgotten that's up here on this channel that he's after accumulating and taking notes on, and now he's even making it his own. So I have a lot of respect for what he's doing there. Where was that? Geez, Willikers. I'm brain farting again. No, I think it's an older one. Older video. Cardio success. Bands only. Oh, we're getting shoulder mobility. Okay, there's a shoulder mobility one. I forgot about that one. That's one that I did with Eric Bach 4 years ago. Wow, jeez. But that's not even the one I'm thinking about either. Again, this is a gold mine. Like, I'm serious. Like, I sometimes forget myself how much content and information is up here on this channel. There's a yoga video there. Yeah, that's another one for mobility. I mean, if you want to, there it is. The total body warm-up. These are the one. Okay. I'll just pop that one. This is the one I was looking at. And then this is specifically the mobility workouts. I'm going to copy the link and share that into our channel. Let me stop screen share there now. There we go. Cool. So this one, I'm copying the link. This one is for you, Neil. Check that out. That should pop up on the YouTube channel. And for those of you, again, who are watching this through Facebook, you can head on over to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel and just go through the old videos, or just do a search for it. It's called Total Body Warm-Up 10 Exercises to Do Before Your Workout. And it's literally a series of 10 movement patterns that will help to increase total body mobility and flexibility. So those are some videos that I would highly recommend checking out for sure. Another thing that's a big game changer, and it's kind of, you don't hear a lot of people talking about it, especially guys, yoga. Yoga is very underrated and very powerful for improving your flexibility and your mobility. You're controlling your breathing, stress relief. And this is something that I've been emphasizing. And even when I do my post-workout stretching routine now, I incorporate some yoga poses in with it. And the thing that I like about yoga is it's not gentle. All right. Like a lot of people think, oh, this is for pussies, this wimps or whatever. Like, try it. That's all I say. Try it. Because I've seen guys, I mean, they might be big, burly men, you know, bench press 300 plus pounds, you know, squat, deadlift, you know, 400 or 500 pounds, and then try and hold a yoga pose and topple over because they don't have the stability and the balance and that core strength to hold themselves in these different poses. So it's a different type of strength. And the thing with yoga is, instead of like exerting this aggressive strength, it's kind of like this internal gentle strength where, okay, you're going to control your breathing. You're going to try and relax under tension. Whereas when you see guys in the gym, they're right, they're heaving and swinging and grunting and groaning, and you know, they're making it look like they're working hard. Whereas with yoga, it's the opposite. Like, you're working it hard, but you're on the surface, you're trying to make it like relax, endure the pain. You can deal with this, right? It's almost like, you know, the duck swimming across the water, right? You know, it looks so graceful and gentle on the surface, but underneath, you know, the feet are kicking as fast as they can. So that's what yoga is like, is you try and like maintain that composure on the surface and control yourself, control your breathing. And it's a different type of strength, which is really powerful to develop, because this will help you with stress management and just real world stuff. Whereas if you take the approach of weight training and this aggressive approach, I mean, under stress, you're just going to blow up like a pressure cooker, right? It's like your top is going to pop. So there's a lot of value to yoga, not only from a mobility and flexibility and all that, but just from stress management point of view as well. So that's what I suggest, Neil. Give those videos a review for yourself, and we'll move on. Paul has got a question. What are your insights about foods that boost testosterone? All right, that's a great question, Paul. And I'm going to try and address this as practically as possible, if that makes sense. Online these days, you're going to see a lot of hype over natural testosterone boosting. You know, like a lot of people say, oh, this is a testosterone boosting diet, or this is a testosterone boosting supplement, or this is, and yes, certain foods and certain vitamins and minerals and nutrients can help with testosterone production, just the same as they can help with numerous functions within the body. But the big thing you want to look at is you want to eat and live and train in a way that's holistic for your overall health, and not just isolating the testosterone, right? Think of everything, overall holistic health, and not just that one thing that's going to boost your test. And the reality is, as you get older, your testosterone levels naturally decline. I actually made a video about this a while back. If you do a search for Lee Hayward TRT/HRT, because that was the insights of the video, is the pros and cons of testosterone replacement therapy and hormone replacement therapy. So I kind of go into, you know, the in-depths of how testosterone responds in the body and how it naturally declines with age. So if you want to check that one out, by all means do so. But when it comes to food choices and lifestyle choices, you want to do things that are going to be healthy in general, not just healthy for testosterone. health in general. Because if you're healthy in general, then you're going to have healthy testosterone in general. If you're unhealthy in general, then it's going to lead to other things going wrong, including the testosterone. So a prime one that a lot of guys are guilty of, alcohol consumption. Alcohol is big. Like if you drink alcohol, that's going to raise estrogen, it's going to lower testosterone, and it's going to place a lot of stress on your body, and it's empty calories, and it's literally, it's toxic. I mean, what happens when you drink too much alcohol? You get intoxicated. So you're literally loading your body up with toxins. And it doesn't help. I mean, I say it causes excess estrogen production. It causes lowered testosterone production. I mean, it's not good for you, right? Even though people think, you know, hey, drinking, I'm going to have a beer in a frosty mug, I'm a manly man. No, it's doing the complete opposite. It's not making you a manly man. It's actually lowering your testosterone and boosting your estrogen and giving you the beer belly. So that's a big one. Like if you can limit or minimize or avoid or whatever, that's a huge one. Another thing you got to look at is just your overall nutrition in general. Like making sure that you're eating adequate protein, adequate essential fatty acids, just adequate food in general, so that your body can manufacture the testosterone that it needs. And one thing that you want to have here is especially the amino acids and the fatty acids, right? Like if you go on a very low protein diet, that's going to be negative to your testosterone. If you go on a very low fat diet, that's going to be negative to your testosterone. Even if you go on a very low carb diet, like all these different diets, right? Like everyone blaming the macronutrients, right? Oh, I got to cut my carbs, or right. And then then people say, no, you got to cut your fat. And then, you know, the vegans are saying you got to cut your protein. Like anytime you cut things out and you create this imbalance, things don't work properly. So you want to eat a well-balanced diet, right? To make sure that you have adequate nutrients so that your body runs and functions efficiently. So that's critical. Also making sure that you're eating consistently, because when you go into these large, like if you go into a serious calorie deficit and you deplete yourself, that lowers your testosterone. Like ironically, if you look at like natural bodybuilders, competitive natural bodybuilders who go through a pre-contest cutting diet and they're super low calories, they're depleted, they're super lean. I mean, even though on the surface they may look good, you know, they're lean and they're defined and you can see their abs and everything else. You say, whoa, man, you're in great shape. If they did a test to check their blood levels and their testosterone levels and hormone levels, their hormone levels are in the toilet. Like a natural bodybuilder pre-contest, when they're depleted, and it's ironic. Bodybuilding is this weird sport where the worse you feel, the better you look, right? It's messed up in that sense because you're so depleted, you're so lean, like you're just the skin is just shrink wrapped over the muscle. And I mean, okay, you're the walking anatomy chart, and okay, it looks cool from the outside, but on the inside, it ain't cool, right? Your hormone levels are in the toilet. Your energy levels are in the toilet. Your mood, and you're cranky, you're irritable, you're hangry. Like everything is, the only thing that's good about it is you look good. Everything else sucks, right? If anybody who's a competitive bodybuilder who's watching this right now, you know, I'm sure you agree with me. And if you're not, then you're lying to yourself. Like when you are so depleted and so deprived, it's not good. Like from a female perspective, when a female bodybuilder or bikini competitor, whatever, when she gets so lean in her pre-contest, things start to shut down. Like they stop their menstrual cycle, because what happens is your body goes into that survival starvation mode, and all these unnecessary things start to slow down and stop in order to conserve energy. So hormone production goes down, unnecessary functions go down, your metabolism slows down, like everything goes into conservation survival mode. And that's what happens when you have a limited nutrient intake, right? You're so depleted. So you got to make sure that you're doing the complete opposite and that you're fueling your body. You're not starving it, you're fueling it. So that's what you want to focus on when it comes to eating for testosterone, is making sure that you're nourishing your body. And think of, instead of trying to avoid the bad foods and cut calories and deplete, deprive, think of, what do I need to add that's going to increase my energy? What do I need to add that's going to nourish my body? What do I need to add to make my diet better and more complete? Not what do I need to eliminate so that I'm in a calorie deficit and can burn body fat, right? It's a different mindset. So focus on adding in the high nutrient dense foods And in the process of doing that, filling up on the good stuff, you're naturally going to squeeze out the bad stuff just because there's not enough room. It's like if we're filling up the jar with rocks. If we put in the big rocks first, there's less room for the junk to fill in there afterwards. So you want to put the good stuff in first, and in just the order of priorities, you're going to filter out the bad stuff. So natural unprocessed foods. Some key ones, some key nutrients in that you want to focus on. Making sure that you're getting adequate zinc, making sure that you're getting adequate D3. These are key. Adequate magnesium, adequate B vitamins, adequate omega-3s. In fact, if you haven't already done so, you should download a copy of my vitamin and mineral guide for athletes. It's available over on my website, leehayward.com. Just in the sidebar, there's a link to it. If you're on your mobile device, your phone, scroll to the bottom of the page and you should see a link to it. Vitamin and Mineral Guide for Athletes. It's a PDF download that you can get right from my website. Or if you want, you can send me an email or a Facebook message and I'll send it over to you. That goes into detail about all the different vitamins and minerals, the optimal intake for health and athletic performance, as well as natural food sources where you can get these from, right? So it's not just taking more supplements and popping more pills, even though there is a time and a place for supplements, don't get me wrong. But the core concept behind that vitamin and mineral guide is how can you meet your vitamin and mineral intake for optimal health and fitness, not just survival, but optimal health and fitness through natural food sources. So if you'd like to get a copy of that, just reach out to me and I'll send it over. And that will definitely help with boosting testosterone. So when you're thinking of nutrition to boost testosterone, you got to think bigger. It's not just testosterone boosting nutrition, it's overall health and nutrition as well. That's the big one. So hopefully I answered that. All right, moving on. How are we doing for time? 47 minutes. All right, we still got time to go. Lee, do you have any videos on tennis elbow? It took me 4 months to get rid of it last year. I was okay for a couple months now. I have a flare up again. Ouch. Yeah, I do have some videos on tennis elbow. Just do a search for Lee Hayward tennis elbow. They should pop up there on the YouTube channel. But the big one with tennis elbow is you really have to avoid aggravating it. Right, that's hands down the biggest thing you got to do, and this is challenging. And kind of going back a few questions here, like someone was asking earlier about my opinion on total body workouts. This was something that I found helped when I switched to total body workouts versus the body part split routines. Is I was actually experiencing less joint irritation from the way that I train now versus the way that I used to train when I was younger. And there's another thing we have to look at. Like a lot of people only focus on stimulating the muscle and recovering the muscle, right? Muscle growth and recovery. And you're judging like, are my muscles sore? If my muscles aren't sore, then I'm good to train the next day. And it's all muscle, muscle, muscle. But what about the joints, tendons, and ligaments? What about that? The older you get, the more fragile those joints, tendons, and ligaments become, and the more susceptible to injury they become, and the more time they need to rest and recover. So when you're in the gym training, even though your energy levels may feel recovered, meaning you're not tired, even though your muscles may be recovered, meaning you're not sore, your joints, tendons, and ligaments may not always be fully recovered. And this is challenging because you can't always feel it. You can't always feel it until you place them under load. It's like, I'll give you an example. Like you may feel fine, like say my legs feel fine, my shoulders, elbows, everything feels fine just sitting around the house and doing the dishes and taking out the trash and doing my day-to-day stuff. But then you go into the gym and you get under a heavy bench press and like, oh shit, my shoulders, my elbows, it hurts. Or you get in the squat rack and you got a barbell across your back. And it's like, oh man, my knees, my hips, my lower back, it hurts. Sometimes you don't know the joint pain is there until it's under load, right? So having adequate rest and recovery between your workouts is not only critical for muscle recovery, but for joint and tendon recovery as well. And for people, especially serious athletes who are pushing themselves they often are more susceptible to tendonitis flare-ups because, again, they're pushing themselves based on their energy recovery and based on their muscle recovery. But the joints and the tendons and the ligaments probably need even more recovery. So that's why I mentioned earlier, like I'm doing 3 total body workouts a week. And on a good week, I'm getting in the gym 3 times a week. But I'll be honest, there's days I don't get to the gym 3 times a week, right? Sometimes it's only twice a week. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because that's extra time for the joints, tendons, and ligaments to recover. Now, for full transparency, I do other exercises besides going to the gym. Like I'll go for bike rides and walks and do yoga and things like that. So I'm doing other exercise besides just throwing around heavy weight in the gym. But when it comes to throwing around heavy weight in the gym, I limit that to 2 to 3 workouts a week, right? Because that's all my body can sustain and recover from and feel good from at this stage of the game. If I go pushing it, trying to do more, then I got to sacrifice in other areas. Meaning I'm probably not going to be able to get out and go for as many bike rides as I want, or I'm going to have to slack off in other areas to try and allow for more recovery for the weight training. And then I've also found is when I do more weight training, I'm more susceptible to aches and pains and injuries. So this balance that I just kind of over the course of several years have naturally stumbled on, and that's what I focus on within the whole Muscle After 40 blueprint, it actually works really good because I haven't had any serious injuries, aches or pains, in years. Like, I mean, of course I get the odd little, I'm a little bit stiff or something from time to time, but nothing serious. Like I haven't had a major tennis elbow flare up in years. Haven't had any major shoulder or elbow or knee pain or anything like that in years. So having adequate recovery between those workouts is huge. And that's something that you want to focus on. And another big one as well when it comes to any type of joint and tendon is focusing on making sure that you're doing equal volume for the agonist and antagonist muscle groups. So equal volume of pressing, equal volume of pulling. If when I do my workouts, for example, if I do an overhead press, then I follow it up with an overhead pull. If I do a horizontal press, I follow it up with a horizontal pull. If I do an arm curl, I follow it up with an arm extension. If I do a leg curl, I follow it up with a leg extension. Always working opposing movement patterns, right? If I do some abdominal work, I follow it up with some lower back work. Always thinking of opposites. And I find if you train your body with that mentality so that everything is in balance and proportion, it goes a long way for limiting the joint pain you get, because very often a lot of the root causes we get from joint pain is overworking one side of the body and underworking the other, right? So it causes the imbalances on how the muscles and tendons and ligaments are pulling on those joints, and it can create some imbalances and pain that way. And then, of course, just lifting too damn heavy. That's another one. I know in Lee's situation, right? Like, look at his profile picture. He's a strong man doing a log lift. So just lifting too darn heavy, and placing that stress on the joints, tendons, and ligaments is bound to happen. And I know in my case, when I used to compete in powerlifting and power bodybuilding, whatever you want to call it, when I was purposely had the ego and I was training heavier and I was shooting for heavier and heavier numbers, that's when my tendonitis and aches and pains and all that were at their peak. So sometimes you may need to go through a bit of a deload phase to let everything just rest, recover, and grow, and then build it back up again. But build it back up again in a more slower, more patient fashion. All right, moving on. Let's see what else we got. Alberto joining in, or Nick Bear. Wait now, Alberto, Nick Bear. Okay, you're asking about Nick Bear. I don't know who Nick Bear is, so forgive me. I mean, who knows? He might be some famous person, but I have no idea who the hell he is. Anyway, how can a big guy like him run such a crazy amount of miles combined with lifting weights? I don't even know who the hell Nick Bear is. I mean, sorry, Nick. Right? if you're famous and I don't know who you are, let me just do a search. Nick Bear. A YouTube channel, Guys in Shape, blah, blah, blah. All right. Again. All right. This kind of I'm going to branch this off for a second here now as well. When it comes to fitness and stuff like that, or for that matter, any topic, sometimes you can get caught up in the information overload and just constantly taking in more and more stuff, and it just muddies the water. It confuses the shit out of you, right? I limit my exposure nowadays. Like, I limit who I follow on social media. I limit the YouTube videos that I watch. I limit my intake of content, if you will, to a few select things, and only when it's applicable. Like, I'm not just constantly trying to absorb more and more and more, because absorbing more and more and more just creates more confusion. And true wisdom is not accumulation. Like, a lot of people out there are like, I want to learn more. I want to learn the latest strategies, more tips, more techniques, more this, more that. I want more, more, more. True wisdom is not accumulation. True wisdom is elimination. It's eliminating all the outside clutter that you don't need and just focusing on the few essential things that are going to make a difference for you. So in the case of this guy, Nick Bear, obviously he's a well-known fitness influencer, but I've never heard of him before, right? Because I'm not out there trying to absorb everything from every Tom, Dick, and Harry who's got a social media outlet. Like, I'm eliminating that outside cluster and just focusing on the few things and the few people that I want to help right now and what's making a difference at this stage. And if it's working and we're getting results and we're happy with the process, let's keep doing it. If it's not working and we kind of hit a stumbling block, that's when I start, looking for outside influences and things like that. But very often I find the elimination mentality of less is more is actually, it's much more sustainable, much more enjoyable, and a lot less stressful as well. So I'm not out there constantly trying to keep up with everybody, if you will. Like, a lot of the people who follow my stuff, they're not only following me, but they're following, 100 other people as well. And that's where the water is so muddied sometimes. But anyway, getting back to your question there, he's a big guy and he does a lot of running and he lifts weights. You can train for that. Now, with that being said, I actually made a video on this as well, so it's ironic. You can't achieve elite levels in both, right? Like, if your goal is to be like a professional bodybuilder and you also want to be a marathon runner, it's very unlikely you're going to achieve both, right? You could be a pretty good bodybuilder and you could be a pretty good runner and you could have a well-rounded fitness. But if you want to achieve world class in any realm, you've got to have the genetics, and then you have to specify your training for that. And that's why you're never going to see, the Mr. Olympia also go and enter the Tour de France, right? Or, a Tour de France cyclist enter the Mr. Olympia, right? It's chalk and cheese, right? Like, so you can do both, right? You can still weight train, you can still do cardio, you can still have good overall fitness. But when you're taking it to extreme levels, this is where it gets confusing, is because in the extremes, you can't have it all, right? You can't be the best at different areas. And like, for example, like Usain Bolt, he's the world's fastest sprinter. Now, he's got a great muscular physique and he's very efficient when it comes to sprinting. And most people look at him and say, man, he's ripped, he's jacked, he's muscular, blah, blah, blah. But if you put him on a professional bodybuilding stage, you get his ass kicked, right? Because even though by average man standards, he's ripped and jacked and muscular, by elite level bodybuilding standards, he's skinny and doesn't have, he's not in shape by bodybuilding standards. Now, vice versa, you take Mr. Olympia and put him on the track and say, okay, what's your 100-meter sprint or something like that, right? He's going to get his ass kicked. Because he's got yes, he's big and he's muscular and everything else, but he's not efficient for sprinting. Now, so you got to look at it from that lens, right? We can do multiple sports and activities and be pretty darn good by average standards. Like in my case, I lift weights. I like to ride bike. I even compete in some local cycling races and stuff like that. So, by average Joe standards, I'm in decent shape. But by elite level standards, I suck. I'd get my ass kicked in a heartbeat. Right? If I went to a national level cycling race or I went to a national level bodybuilding show, I'd get my ass kicked all over the place. But by Joe Blow standards, I can be pretty good, right? I can hold my own on a bike and I can hold my own in the gym. And I without knowing more about this guy, Nick, I'm saying he's probably the same way. He's in shape. He looks good. He's got his YouTube channel and his social media following, and he probably does really well with it. But is he world class at any of those things? If he's doing, again, I'm talking about a guy I have no idea about, right? So, for hardcore fans of Nick, I'm not being insulting. I'm just throwing this scenario out there. It's unlikely for someone to be elite in two totally different sporting aspects, like an endurance and a strength training, right? It's very unlikely. And that's why in sports, you never see that. But you can have the well-rounded fitness. And that's where like the CrossFit kind of comes in. It's like they're not great at anything, but they're really good at a lot. Almost like the jack of all trades in fitness. And that's what most people want. They want to be the jack of all trades in fitness because that's a fun spot to be in, right? I don't need to be the biggest bodybuilder in the world. I don't need to be the fastest runner in the world. I don't need to be a 100-mile endurance runner, right? I don't need to be any of that stuff, but I'd like to be good enough that I can get out and enjoy life and do the stuff that I want without my body holding me back. That's where most people want to be. And you can certainly do that and achieve that. All right, moving on. We cracked the 1 hour mark with that one. All right, I'm going to get ready and clue it up shortly. Hopefully you're enjoying the chat. If you are, smash the thumbs up button. Give us some positive support there, and we'll keep her going. Robert's joining in. Is collagen worth taking? I personally use collagen powder. I usually mix it in with like a blender smoothie or like with high protein oatmeal or something like that. I like to take collagen on a regular basis. You can argue the pros and cons with it because, like anytime you talk about supplements, there's always a school of thought saying, oh, this stuff is great, the best thing since sliced bread. And then there's another school of thought saying, we don't need supplements. We can get everything we need from our diet, and everybody in between. I personally use collagen. I find it's helpful. Knock on wood, since I've been using it regularly, I haven't had any aches or pains in my joints. And even some of the aches and pains and clicks that I did have in my joints have kind of like gone away since I've been utilizing collagen. I'll give you a prime example. I used to have in my elbow, I used to have a click. It was kind of weird to explain it, but like if I did overhead dumbbell extensions or certain tricep kickback moves or whatever, like my elbow used to like click. It was just like this weird clicking in the joint. And it was there for years, right? Even in some of my older videos, like if there was no background music, right, you could hear, okay, Lee's doing tricep extensions and there's and people are like, what's that weird noise? That's my elbow clicking, right? And it was there for years. Again, maybe it's coincidence, I don't know. But since I started supplementing with collagen on a regular basis, that click in my elbow is gone and it's not there anymore. Now, maybe it's a combination of better quality training, focusing on my recovery, less inflammation, who knows? But bottom line, that's one thing I've noticed. But yeah, I supplement with collagen. What else we got there? Todd joining in from Todd's my neighbor, right? Only a mere 1,000 miles away. Let's see. So at 50 years old, I'm on the verge of purchasing a membership with the CPA, Canadian Physique Alliance, in order to register for a natural show coming up on July 15th here in New Brunswick. I've got about 6 weeks left of bulking before I begin a 12-week prep with a coach. I don't know if there's a follow-up question to that. And there is. Hang on. I'll find it. ... I think the most challenging thing will be the mental confidence to get there. The question I have is, come on, Todd, where are we to? ... Can guys still make size/mass gains leading up to the show? All right, great question. All right, so let's just recap quickly here in the multiple things. He's 50 years old. I was actually chatting to Todd not too long ago. We had a phone consultation there a while back. So getting ready to do a natural show at 50. He's doing a bulking before doing a cut. All right, I want to clarify that because bulking and cutting. Now, I know Todd's body type. Like he tends to have more of those ectomorphic tendencies. Like he's the longer, leaner physique, if you will, instead of the short, stocky physique. So he has more of those endomorphic tendencies. So I understand where he's coming from with the bulking side of things, but I'm not a fan of purposely bulking. What I consider bodybuilding bulking, if you will, like a competitive bodybuilding bulking, is simply not being in calorie deficit. It's not dieting. And if you're not dieting, meaning I'm not in a deficit, then by default, I'm bulking. That's the way I look at bulking from a bodybuilding point of view. It's not I'm purposely eating to try and gain weight, because when you purposely eat to try and gain weight, you very rarely gain good weight, right? Unless you're young and genetically gifted and naturally going through your prime of growth, like let's say a teenager, you got a skinny teenager who started working out with weights, and he's eating everything and anything in sight, and he's training hard. He could pack on a lot of lean mass because it's like the perfect storm for muscle building. Your body's naturally primed for growth, just going through puberty and adolescence. You're training and your body's build, you got all that muscle stimulation from the training, and then you're eating a ton of food, so you're providing the raw materials that it needs. It can just utilize it and grow. When you're 50 years old, you're not in that same environment anymore, especially if you're a natural 50-year-old. You're definitely not in that same environment anymore. So bulking is simply not cutting. All right. It doesn't mean, I got to slam back an extra 1,000 calories and I'm going to put, scoop of ice cream in with my protein shake, and I'm going to, slam back stacks of pancakes and sausages and eggs because I'm bulking, bro. Right. No, it's not a seafood diet. When I see food, I eat food. It's just, I'm still eating the clean, healthy stuff that I would be if I was on a cut, but I'm just eating more of it so that I'm not in a deficit. That's my definition of a pre-contest bulk, if you will, or a bodybuilding bulk. And this is something, I'll just hide the question there so my face isn't chopped off there. This is something I really learned from just through my years of bodybuilding and going to different seminars and talking to world-class bodybuilders. And when I say world-class, I'm talking like some of the best of the best. Like I remember one of our local competitions we had back in the mid-2000s, twice. We actually had Jay Cutler come down right after he won the Mr. Olympia. I remember the promoters hired him before he was Mr. Olympia. So, we just knew, okay, we got Jay Cutler's coming, guest posing and doing a seminar at our show. And then he ended up winning the Olympia. So now it's like, not only is Jay Cutler coming, but it's Mr. Olympia Jay Cutler's coming. So that was pretty cool. And he did a great seminar for us as well. But we had a lot of high-level bodybuilders back in the day used to come do seminars at some of our shows and stuff. So I had an opportunity to hang out with these guys for a while. And one of the things that really stood out is their off-season nutrition. Like their off-season nutrition is cleaner than most people's dieting nutrition. Like they're not eating shit all the time. And what I mean by that is like a lot of people think, well, if I'm not dieting, then I can eat whatever I want, right? I'm going to have pizza and I'm going to have potato chips and I'm going to have this and I'm going to have that and I'm going to have a few beers on the weekend and all that. Well, it's the off season. I'm bulking, right? And they give in to eating a lot of crap, right? Like the food you eat in private shows in public. That was another line that I got from a pro bodybuilder. All right, the food you eat in private shows in public, because a lot of people always talk about how clean they eat, when people are watching, but the food that they're eating behind closed doors, the stuff that you're shoveling down your gullet that you hope nobody notices, people are noticing it, right? They're noticing it through your physique. So these guys are eating clean year round. Yes, they'll still have the occasional cheat meal or whatever, but their core eating is very clean. Like it's the clean, lean protein. It's the clean quality carbohydrates. It's the fruits and the vegetables and the natural unprocessed stuff. Like that's year round, right? That's their clean bulk. And then of course, when they get into contest prep mode, it's the same type of foods. It's just less of them, right? And they're a bit more selective than maybe, tapering down some of the carbohydrates and focusing on more vegetables and things like that. But they're eating clean year round, right? That's why they maintain a relatively lean physique year round. Now, it's not a depleted physique because they're not in a calorie deficit year round, but they're relatively lean year round because they're always focusing on those fundamentals. Right. So that's what I want to define there when it comes to bulking. Right. I know you got it in brackets, so that's probably what you mean as well. But just for the benefit of everybody listening here, bulk doesn't mean eat junk and get fat. All right. That's not bulk. And all right, getting back to the rest of your question there. You're saying the challenging thing is going to be the mental confidence to get there. The question I have is, can I still make size gains leading up to the show? You know what? Do it anyway. All right. Just do it. All right. Just do it anyway. Because let's take, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Let's assume you don't gain any size leading up to the show. Right? As long as you come into the show lean and defined and you can see your muscle definition, you're still going to do pretty darn good. And I'm going to take another angle on this. This is another thing that I learned from going to seminars and listening to pro bodybuilders. The common theme that I hear amongst top-level bodybuilders is when they feel skinny, they look their best. When they feel big and full, they look their worst. So if you come to the show and you're like, oh, man, I'm so skinny, I'm scrawny, I feel depleted, and you're like, you feel like a wimp backstage, like a deflated balloon. You probably actually are looking your best, because if you go backstage and you start to pump up and you're like, yeah, I feel big, I feel jacked, I feel full, usually you're holding water and you got too much body fat, right? Because that extra water and everything else is that stuff that makes you feel big and full. It actually blurs your definition. So if you're feeling skinny, you know, and you're even leading into the show, you're feeling skinny, you're probably on the right track. That's part of the mind game of bodybuilding. It's such a weird sport in that sense. You know, the better you look, the worse you feel. I said that earlier, and it is so true. So going into that, just don't get hung up on the mass game. Focus on the conditioning, because if you're lean, if you're defined, you're going to look bigger. Right? And if you take someone who's physically bigger, but they're not as lean, they're going to look. I got to show you this. Let me show you this. All right, close this out. I just brain fart. Something popped in my head here now. I'm going to share my screen. Just give me a second, guys. This is. Let's see if that's going to pop up there. All right, I got a second now. My brain is operating faster than my my computer. All right, can you see that? Is that coming through on your end? Hopefully it is. This is my coaching student and also my assistant head coach at the Muscle After 40 Blueprint. This is Jeff. Hopefully you can see that. Hopefully it's coming through clear. Yeah, I think that's good. Look at the pictures right here of Jeff. In the first picture, the one that was taken in December of 2019, he was 203 pounds or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just, do I have the exact numbers there somewhere? I'm not 100% sure, but he's just over 200 pounds in this picture right here. In the after picture, the one that's June 2022, he's 175 pounds. He's about 27 pounds lighter in the after picture than he was in the before picture. Now, if I didn't say nothing, you would probably think the exact opposite. You would look at it and say, holy shit, look how big Jeff's after getting in the after picture. The guy's huge, he's jacked, he's bigger. He looks bigger, but he's not. He looks bigger because his muscles are defined. He's lost the body fat, and he has that physique look, right? But he's lighter. He's 27 pounds thereabouts. I'm not exactly sure, but I know he's 175 pounds in that after picture, and he was just over 200 in the before picture. So a 25 plus pound difference, but he looks so much bigger and so much more defined. So that's why the numbers on the scale can be so misleading. You know, especially when it comes to bodybuilding, because if we were just going by numbers, he should look better if he's heavier, but no, it's not that way. So again, this is going back to Todd's question leading up to, can you gain mass into the show? Yeah, you can lose body fat and gain mass, meaning you look bigger, you look more muscular, and you look like you belong on stage, but are you physically going to gain mass? No. Your body weight is going to come down, but you can look more muscular, if that makes sense. And this is a prime example right here. This is Jeff. Another guy that I did a video with just recently. This is Mike Brown. Let me pop this up here. Hopefully that's coming through on the screen. This is another great example. And Mike is 59 years old, right? So again, for those of you thinking I'm too old to build muscle, think again, right? Mike, in this situation, what was it? There's 5 pounds difference in these pictures right here. He's 5 pounds lighter in the muscular picture than he was in the before picture. So like, he looks so much bigger. Like someone look at him like, geez, the guy's huge, he's jacked or whatever, but he's lighter. He's smaller. Now, Mike really did a true body recomposition where the weight kind of stayed very similar. Like it's less than 10 pounds thereabouts of body weight change, but the composition has just changed dramatically. Right. So I mean, don't get hung up on the weight, right? Like he looks so much bigger, so much more muscular and everything else. And people say, man, he's gained so much more mass. But yeah, he's gained muscle, but his overall size has gone down. Right. Same thing when it comes to Jeff's picture there, right? He's bigger, more muscular, looking bigger, but physically he's lighter, right? 25 pounds lighter. So you got to take that into consideration when it comes to your bodybuilding contest prep, right? Don't get caught up in gaining size and getting hung up on the scale weight and all that kind of stuff. Trust the process, right? Trust the process and realize if you're losing weight and you're feeling skinny, you're probably actually looking your best, right? As messed up as that sounds. And I, as a former bodybuilder myself, I've done 15 competitions and coached numerous people and been around the sport since 1995. That's when I did my first show, right? You got to really look at the bigger picture here. All right, guys, I'm going to get ready and clue this up. Just scrolling through some more questions here. Good stuff. Steve's saying, watched a bunch of these videos. Very informative. Highly recommended. Thanks, Steve. Steve's actually going through the Muscle After 40 Blueprint coaching program with us as well. Glad to have you tuning in. What else we got there? There's a bunch of questions we could jump into, but guys, we're already well over our hour here, so I'm going to get ready and clue it up. Tell you what, the replay of this is going to be posted up on our YouTube channel and up on the Facebook page as well. Like as soon as this video ends, the replay is going to be posted up, and then I'm going to get my assistant to go in there and he's going to post up the timestamps for all the different questions. But if there's anything that you want more clarification on, like maybe there was questions that you asked didn't get answered, or you want to reach out to me, feel free to do so. You can send me an email, leeh@leehayward.com. I got my email address down in the description below this video. Just pop it open. You can drop me an email. Or if you're watching through Facebook, feel free to send me a private message through Facebook and we can have a chat. So if there's anything that you want either more clarification on with what we discussed here through our video chat, feel free to message me. Or if you want some help with, your own training and nutrition or whatever, reach out and let me know and we can have a chat and brainstorm some ideas and see if we can get you on the right track to reaching your own personal best fitness and fat loss transformation. All right, I'm going to clue it up. Hopefully you enjoyed the video chat. And if you did, thumbs up, give it a like, and I will talk to you next week. Take care. Over and out.